All right, today's lesson is on Pythagorean theorem. Our goals are I can apply the Pythagorean theorem to find a missing angle, and I can apply the Pythagorean theorem to classify a triangle. All right, so first off, a Pythagorean theorem can only be used when we have a right triangle. All right, when we do have a right triangle, we could take the two legs, square them, and add them together, and then set that equal to the hypotenuse squared. Now the hypotenuse is always the side across from the right angle, and the legs are always the side that are touching the right angle. All right, so example, use Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. Write answers in simplified radical form. So I like to start with the hypotenuse because I know that side has to go by itself. So I'm going to take the x and square it, and then I'm going to take the other two legs, square it, and add it on the other side of the equal sign. All right, so here we have 5 squared, which is 25, plus 5 squared, which is 25. Add those together, we get 50, but now we have to solve for the missing side, x. So in order to do, sorry. You're so sweet, thank you. All right, sorry about that. So in order to take the x squared and solve for x, we're going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. And then we end up with x equals the square root of 50. All right, and we have to simplify the square root of 50. So in order to simplify that, we're going to take the biggest perfect square. So the biggest perfect square that goes into 50 is 25. So I'm going to take the square root of 25 times the square root of 2. The square root of 25 is 5, and then square root of 2. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try that you try. All right, number 2. Now the Pythagorean, or the hypotenuse is 7 square root 2. So we're going to take 7 square root 2 and square it. And we get a squared plus 3 squared. All right, 7 squared is 49. The square root of 2 squared is 2. You could put that whole thing in your calculator if you want. And then we get a squared plus 9. 49 times 2 is 98. All right, and then to get the a squared by itself, we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. We get 89 equals a squared. And then we're going to take the square root of both sides. Now, when we go to put 89 divided by x in our calculator, you will see that there are no perfect squares that go into 89. Okay, no decimals, oops. Okay, then these are all decimals, and if you keep scrolling down, you'll see that there are no perfect squares. All right, so we can go ahead and go back to our notes here, and we're going to leave this as the square root of 89. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try that you try. Okay, now we're also going to have to be able to solve for missing sides without a picture. All right, so if we are given that a equals 5 and c equals 10, we're going to find b. So if you want, you could draw your picture. All right, but we know that the c is the hypotenuse. So we're going to take 10 squared, put that on one side, and then 5 squared plus b squared. All right, 10 squared is 100, 5 squared is 25. I could subtract 25 from both sides, and I get 75. Take the square root, and now we have to simplify. So the biggest perfect square that goes into 75 is 25. So I'm going to take the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. All right, the square root of 25 is 5 times the square root of 3. And that is our b side. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try that next you try. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about today is the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So now if we have two sides, the biggest side being the hypotenuse, squared, and if we set that equal to the two smaller numbers squared, if the left-hand side were to equal the right-hand side, then we know it's a right triangle. All right, so we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem to determine if the three sides form a right triangle. Okay, so we're always going to start with the biggest number because that's the only possible number that could be the hypotenuse. So 30 squared equals 24 squared plus 18 squared. All right, now we're going to put the left-hand side in our calculator. So put 30 squared in your calculator, and you should get 900. Then put 24 squared plus 18 squared in your calculator, and we also get 900. So if the left-hand side equals the right-hand side, then our answer is yes. These three sides make up a right triangle. All right, now number 2, the biggest number is 28. So we're going to take 28 squared, and we're going to set that equal to 11 squared plus 19 squared. All right, when we put the 28 squared in our calculator, we get 784. When we put the 11 squared plus 19 squared in our calculator, we get 482. Now the left-hand side does not equal the right-hand side, so we would say this is not a right triangle. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try those two, you try problems.